Genuine moments are lifetime accomplishments. I repeat, genuine moments are lifetime accomplishments. The Zohar says as follows. On Leil Seder, Hashem brings his Pamliya Shomalia. In other words, he convenes hosts of malachim, of angels, hosts of them. I sense they're in a very special position, and they report to Hashem about our Seder, about the Seder you're going to be doing in a week. They're reporting, Ashrei Am Shekachal, what a people! Look at that! Look how they're praising you, Hashem. That's what is reported in the Zohar. Now, we want this to happen this year. We want the malachim to say, Hashem, we've been there every year. We've been to Armando's Seder and Peretz and Steve and everybody. We've been to all their, something different's happened. They have Kavanah, extra Kavanah. That's what we want the malachim to report to Hashem. And with that in mind, I want to welcome the listeners of Yibineh and everyone else who's joining us this evening. In other words, we want to know, how can we do a Seder that the malachim have new things to report? Because they see we're really, really into it. That's the goal of tonight's shir. With that in mind, I want to explain that opening statement a little. This idea that genuine minutes are a lifetime accomplishment. Okay, to do that, I first want to do a math lesson with you. And if you're not good at math, we have something in common. So this is not going to be a daunting math presentation. Okay, but you might want to take this down. Here's the KLM equation. Mitzvos minus Kavanah equal rituals in the negative sense of that word. I repeat, mitzvos minus Kavanah equal rituals. Mitzvos plus Kavanah equal spiritual experience. Okay, so far I've laid out two equations. The first one is a negative, right? But now let's go to this positive equation again. Mitzvos plus Kavanah equals spiritual experience. Now let's take that equation and apply it to Leil Seder. Leil Seder, we have the following: spiritual connection plus, no, wait a minute. Give me a second. Just checking my math. Spiritual experience during Seder equals a fulfillment of Haggadata Lebincha. In other words, successfully relating the story to your children, to the next generation, and to yourself. Okay? You hear that? If you have a spiritual experience. This idea, I heard this idea from my Rebbe's Rabbi Goldstein, and it always struck me. And that was as follows. He said, if you want someone to have a spiritual experience, have a spiritual experience in front of them. Okay? That is a magical equation. Okay? If you want them to have a spiritual experience, have one in their presence. Okay? Now, beautiful thought. It was amazing. You know, he was one of the first rabbis when there was a return of people, of secular people to Torah. He was a leader of the movement, Rabbi Goldstein Zetzal. So I thought, wow, What a deep observation of current times. You know what I found out with a little research? That is exactly how some explain the obligation we have on Leil Seder. On Leil Seder, you, all of you, me, etc., we're all obligated to see ourselves as leaving, as if we left Egypt. Okay? Now, when the Haggadah presents that, it brings us a proof source. It brings a pasuk. And which pasuk is that? V'hagadat lebincha, right? It says, you shall relate to your children on that day, hagadat lebincha, and then it says, what Hashem did to me, right? That Hashem took me out of Egypt. So in the mitzvah of conveying this, transferring this experience, right? That we have to feel and exude as if we left, that is embedded in the mitzvah of passing it on to your kids, transmission, okay? So, and like I said, transmission to yourself if you're not in that situation, okay? Good. So we want to know how to have a spiritual experience during Seder, because that'll lead to the mitzvah. So of course, I'm going to tell you the secret is Kavanah. Which Kavanah? Okay. What do you mean, which Kavanah? Kavanah, you have to have Kavanah. As we've been teaching lately, it's important to know there's not just one Kavanah. There are two Kavanahs, okay? Let's remind ourselves. The famous Kavanah is what everyone talks about when they're davening. I had good kavanah, God forbid I didn't have good kavanah, etc. That kavanah is called Kavanah Halev, kavanah of the heart, which really means focus. Was I focused? Was I engaged, etc.? That's Kavanah Halev. What we're publicizing is the poor stepsister, Kavanah Lemitzvos, right? Kavanah doesn't mean focus and engagement there. It means conscious intention. So both kavanahs are what we want to offer Hashem, okay? It's a famous pasuk it's a famous Gemara I like to mention all the time. It says, Rahmana liba boy, Hashem wants our heart. So I've always thought, wow, that's a very deep point, and it's all about, being sincere. But I didn't know exactly, how do you give Hashem your heart? Right? The way you give Hashem your heart, I'm going to say kavanah, intention plus engagement and focus. Both, you want kavanah halev and kavanah the heart. Both of them is part of the mitzvah of serving Hashem with all your heart, according to the Ramban. Okay? So let me just review before we get into the details of Seder. Tonight, we want to determine what can we do to have a spiritual experience on Seder, because it's contagious. And that is indeed what the rabbis were thinking when they said you have to see yourself as leaving, okay? That's our goal. We're saying we're going to get there by focusing on the two kavanahs, kavanah lemitzvos and kavanah halev, okay? Now, I'm about to just present you with a ton of possibilities, okay? And now I refer back to my opening words. Genuine moments are lifetime accomplishments in spiritual terms, okay? That's the thing. When I'm studying, my approach in Torah is usually not Kabbalistic, and I don't go in that direction so much. And I was studying a lot about the idea of chametz and why chametz is such a big deal that you could get spiritual excision from it, kares. So anyhow, I am going to employ a more kind of Kabbalistic understanding, one of the Maharal, because it helps explain something I've been puzzled about a long time during teaching Kavanah mitzvahs, is when a person realizes that the opportunities to be conscious of what you're doing and have that thought before you act, the opportunities are endless. Now, that can be intimidating. That can make a person feel like, oh no, I mean, all of this, what am I going to do, right? It can be overwhelming, intimidating, etc. That's one thing I've noticed, right? And the other thing I've noticed, some people react that way, also is people underestimate what they're accomplishing with just the simple thought, okay? Like right now, just in case, have in mind, have conscious intention that we're learning Torah and that we're preparing for Seder, which is part of the laws of Pesach 30 days before the Hag starts. I apologize. Let me just take care of this. Okay. This is what okay, let me bring this out. I said I want to deal with, when I'm about to hit you with a lot of spiritual opportunities, and I don't want you to feel, well, how am I going to do all that? Even if you don't do all that, you have to realize how much single genuine moments have embedded in them. So let me explain this concept of chametz with the Maharal, okay? The Maharal, his explanation with chametz about the 18 minutes and the contrast with bread rising, he basically said something. He says that spiritual things are not time-bound, okay? So the production of this lechem ani is meant to be in a way that there's as little time as possible to achieve the event, because you're in a different zone when you're in the spiritual zone. To have a look back on a life and say, what accomplishments I achieved, it's usually years and years and years of real hard work and effort. But that's not the same spiritually. I'll give you an example. The Chafetz Chaim in the Sefer, he said this in the Sefer Chafetz Chaim, I believe in the introduction, or he made this comment. He said, and that was quite a work. It was very involved, lots of halacha, lots of musar, etc. A very big book. He said as follows: it was worth it for me to write this sefer if one person, before they whip out some negative slander, they hesitate, or they don't, and obviously if they don't speak, he goes, it was worth the whole effort, right? So what does he understand? He must understand that even one little refraining when you'd love to express your anger and say something negative, that's in spiritual worlds, that's incredible, okay? It's a lifetime accomplishment. And he knew that if one person did that, held back, he has achieved a lifetime accomplishment, okay? So that's what we need to reframe, okay? What I want you to do is be thrilled and thirsty for Kavanah opportunities, mitzvah opportunities in every second, but also not to feel like, oh, well, I forgot that Kavanah, I forgot this, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I hope I've made my point. Now my goal is to just hit you with a ton of possibilities for Leil Seder, okay? That's what we're up to. So we will now move into the mitzvahs of Seder and having Kavanah, et cetera, et cetera. So first of all, I repeat, there's two types of Kavanah. There's focusing on what you're doing. That's Kavanah stage 2, okay? Stage 1 Kavanah is having intention for what you're doing. In other words, before you act, you have what we call a sacred pause. You pause, you think, what am I doing right now? What mitzvah am I doing? I'm listening to Torah, right? So you have that. So you have in my Hashem, I'm listening to Torah as you command me to. Another step These are general steps for the whole Seder. Just ask yourself, what am I doing now? And fortunately, the Haggadahs outline each and every step. So whenever you see you're up to step that, now we're about to do this, and you announce it, have in mind, I have in mind the mitzvah maror, eating maror. I have in mind the mitzvah of yachatz, etc. Just have those in mind. That's one way. Okay, the first thing is just think, what am I doing? The second, like generic, this applies all the time. It applies in this second too. Is step 2 of general Kavanah is, who am I doing this? Who's here? Who am I doing this in front of and for? And that's Hashem, right? So just have in mind, the most important guest at the Seder is Hashem. Okay, so just when you realize that that's a mitzvah, and that's a mitzvah to have kavanah for, have in mind Shavisi Hashem, I'm placing Hashem before me, or Yiras Hashem. You hear? I have the mitzvah of being aware of your presence. Okay, even so, again, will you remember before every single mitzvah? According to Reb Hamanu, there's like 140 mitzvahs on Seder night, okay? Are you going to remember before each one? Probably not, but remember, genuine moments are lifetime accomplishments. So any one you pick off is a diamond, okay? That's number one. And also, are you going to be able to remember about your special guest all the time? I hope so, but probably not, right? Genuine moment. If right now you realize you're in the presence of Hashem and you're doing the mitzvah, listening to Torah in the presence of Hashem, that's a lifetime accomplishment, okay? All right, that's the general approach to the Seder. One more general approach, and you'll find this on our WhatsApp group. We're going to be releasing a video about this. And that's what I've called those who are familiar with KLM kavanations, okay? Meaning we express our feelings to Hashem about what we're doing, right? So again, but I also encourage you, again, we have these materials are going to be posted, but I also encourage you to maybe take a note or two, okay? Because I'm hitting the essentials, okay? So we have trying to think, whatever mitzvah you identify, say, Hashem, I'm doing this because you commanded me to, right? Remember you're in the presence of Hashem. And thirdly, I boiled down what I call these jewels, these emotions we express to Hashem. I'm going to boil them to the three main ones, in my humble opinion, okay? Here's this, and by the way, the good thing about what I'm talking about right now, about expressing your feelings to Hashem before the Seder starts, you can express it at the beginning of the Seder. If you continue, lovely. But even if you don't, you set the Seder in the right place and you fulfilled 3 doraisas, 3 Torah commandments. Okay, here's the ones. Avas Hashem, right? So make a note to yourself that sometime, ideally before the Seder starts, you just say to yourself, you can say it in your heart, you don't have to express it out loud. It's powerful if you express it out loud, but it's not necessary. So you say in your heart, Hashem, I'm performing the mitzvahs of Leil Seder because I love you and I want to bring you nachas. That's a lifetime accomplishment, I assure you. Okay, that's number 1, love. Okay, 2, yira, reverence. So the second is Hashem. This is kavanah mitzvahs too. It's kavanah mitzvahs and the heart, right? So he said, Hashem, I intend to fill mitzvah of Av Hashem. I'm doing this Seder because I love you, want to bring in nachas. Yiras Hashem, okay, which is I'm going to approach this Seder with the reverence it deserves. Reverence, that's a form of Yiras Hashem, Doraisa, okay? So we have love and fear, and the Zohar says every mitzvah done with Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem, those are the wings that bring the mitzvah to very high places in heaven. Okay, highly recommended. The last one is Simcha. Tachas asher lo avadata es Hashem b'simcha. According to Rabbeinu Bachaya, Simcha is a mitzvah d'oraisa. It's a Torah commandment, right? And boy, oh boy, it's the way to do the Seder, okay? So have in mind the mitzvah of, the three Seder feelings are love, reverence, and joy. Joy is just, I intend to do this with joy, okay? I go on and on about that, but just put a smile on your face, feel happy. And there's someone, by the way, again, I want to stress, if you had a little joy, it's a lifetime accomplishment, okay? Because guess what's going to probably happen? Probably people will be ignoring you during your Devar Torah, or fighting or yelling, or, perhaps if you have children, sorry to speak that about children, Lito Ellis, it's Lito Ellis, okay? You know why? You know why you probably won't have, I give everybody, including myself, all Klal Yisrael, bracha to do the whole Seder b'simcha. But if it doesn't happen, guess why? Remember, we said there's a special guest, the special guest of special guests, Kadosh Baruch Hu, is going to be at your Seder. But also, the Yetzer Hara, okay? Don't think he's not coming to your Seder. He doesn't care if you invite him or not. He will be there. So I'm trying to inoculate you and fortify you right now that guess what? Things are coming down the pipeline. And that's what you have to remember. Just snatch a genuine moment here and there and there. Amazing. Okay. All right, good. So that's what I call the pre-Seder Kedusha warm-up. And by the way, if you want to contact me, I have lists and lists of mitzvahs. I told you, Rev Haminer is over 140. That's because the minhagim, the practices, the traditions are mitzvahs. The rabbinics are mitzvahs. There's so many mitzvahs that night. Listen to this. Counts Rev Haminer, if you start with Mariv, the evening service, ready? In the evening, I'm not talking about the next day. In the evening, you will have made 32 brachas, 32 blessings. Okay? So have in mind the mitzvah. I'm giving you some more tips. You can record them, you can review, but have in mind the mitzvah of mea brachas. Every time you make it, you're moving down the line of fulfilling 100 brachas. Every rabbinic commandment is a Torah commandment. Right? So you could say, Hashem, all the rabbinic commandments I do on Leil Seder, I have in mind that you command me to listen to the rabbis and not rebel. Okay? Incredible. You all have had so many lifetime accomplishments, they'll have to make like this humongous Hall of Fame building just for you, okay, and all your lifetime accomplishments. All righty? Next, okay? Next. Let's go into Kavanah Halev, okay? Now, Kavanah Halev here, I mean reflection and engagement, right? And this is, I'm going to move into spiritual experience right now, okay? This night has so many cues, physical cues, emotional cues, intellectual cues to have a spiritual experience. Through the night is the obligation to see yourself as leaving Egypt, as the Rambam says now, leaving now Egypt. See yourself, show yourself. There's a lot of discussion. But here's the thing. Did the rabbis leave you alone with this? Did they just say, okay, good luck, see yourself as leaving Egypt, go for it, and then leave you? No, they did not. They gave us so much help. The gorgeous silver, right? The silver that you put out, this crystal, the beautiful, what do you call it? Table spreads, the special matzah covers, the designer Seder plates. Everything is aristocratic, royal. The Meiri says that when we left, we were no longer the slave guys, we were like their masters. They gave us gold. We were late in gold. We walked out. Biyad Ramah. I was thinking, at the Olympics, and they go like, imagine winning the Olympics, right? All these beaten down slavey Jews are walking out like that, right? And we became aristocracy in moments. Okay, so that's why there's this. It's called derech cherus. That's how they describe it. The way of freedom. It's very connected to aristocracy. Look at the Sefer Chinuch. He says you eat matzah like you're now a prince. Okay, so the thing is this: those are cues that they embedded in this area. Just look at that and connect to the aristocracy. Now, here's another one: physical. Right? The rabbis say Haseva, right? That is, what is that meant to do? That's meant to get your body involved. And your body is trying to express aristocracy and freedom. So do it. It's not a ritual. Remember, if you do it, well, let's go back to the math equation. We have mitzvos plus Kavanah equals spiritual experience, not rituals. So don't just lean. You have to keep in mind all the halachas, and there's a lot, etc. But most of you probably done a Seder too. So now let's put some freedom and aristocracy into your lean like this, right? That's Kavanah Salev. Be engaged in it and feel it. You want to exude this spirituality to fulfill Haggadah to Lebincha. You really want to pass this on to the next generation. And that's how you do it. Okay? I mean, that's one of the ways you do it. Okay? Let me show you another way. So, ready? Reclining is a major way to get your body leaving Egypt, right? Now, let's go to, just give me a second. I'm just evaluating the next step here. Reclining. Let's go to the 4 cups, okay? Again, I'll bring you something from the Maharal Haggadah. It says, there's a mitzvah d'oraisa to eat matzah, a mitzvah d'oraisa. And there's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan to eat maror. So your eating is filled with kedusha and holiness. Let's focus on the matzah for a second. So says the Maharal, why did the rabbis enact drinking 4 cups? Right? That's now a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, which we said is a d'oraisa. Guess what? The rabbis knew, why should only your eating be spiritual tonight? Your drinking too should be spiritual. And that's why we drink as a mitzvah, okay? But the 4 cups, besides being mitzvah cups, everyone, I don't know. I asked one of my kids and I said, what's the symbolism of the 4 cups? And he said, I know there is, I just don't remember, okay? Now, many of us maybe even know that it corresponds to the 4 expressions of redemption. That's amazing if you do. But that's meant to impact your Seder. You hear that? Each cup is meant to impact your Seder. And I love what the Meiri does. And I'm just going to flash this to, I'm going to have parrots flash it. I'm going to flash this to you. Wait, before, not yet parrots. As follows. According to the Meiri, each cup represents a progressive stage of redemption. And you can really, if you have that in mind and heart, and you speak about it, let's say, with each cup, or it may not be time to speak about it, okay? But if you think it and feel it, it's really big, because you can really see yourself leaving by the drinking and by the thinking, okay? Parents, please share this. This will be posted on our WhatsApp group towards the Seder. It's a little gift for the Seder. Okay, This is the old version. I changed it. It says packing the 4 cups with meaning. We have a more elegant way, filling the 4 cups with meaning. Okay, so you'll get, this is not the final version, but I just want to just give you an overview of how you can again exude spiritual experience through the arbakosos by understanding their meaning. Okay, not only does cleaning have meaning, certainly drinking will have meaning. So the first thing is, not everyone is aware of the fact that after the first plague, we were no longer in harsh slavery. We were not getting whipped and all that stuff. It was over after the first plague. So there was already a major redemption that occurred after the first plague. Okay, next, Ga'alti, right? There, says the Meiri, okay, after they stopped making us beaten down slaves, okay, we're like the Egyptians, right? No, they had so much fear and trepidation of us. They actually we didn't have the obligations of regular citizens. We were exempt from taxes, government servants, etc. Before we left, even, says the Meiri. The third one, Hitzalti. Oh, yeah, wow. Don't take this poster seriously. This is a little mixed up. But the bottom line is, the third step was that, as I mentioned, we became so wealthy, and so after the 10th plague, we became in such a position that we actually were like their masters. Okay, and finally, last but definitely not least, the Torah. Okay, this is another thing again. Well, how am I going to remember all this? Okay, I do recommend write it down or getting the post or whatever it is. But even if you don't, if you have one recollection, if you have time for 1 second's thought about any of this, it will be amazing. Okay, if you can take that down, parrots. All right, so we've covered the little quick review. You have the basic kavanahs before you start the Seder. As much as you can, remember Hashem is present, okay? It'll affect your behavior. Be on guard because the Yetzer Hara is present, okay? And if you blow it and you blow your top or something like this, you get upset, you get stressed, you're going, oh, this is not working. Okay, so your guest made his presence known, the Yetzer Hara. Don't get down, because that's his real goal. Don't let him get you down, okay? Tell Hashem you're doing this because you love him, and tell him you're going to attempt to do this with the reverence it deserves and joy. Okay, that was pre-Seder, right? Once the Seder kicks in, take every aspect of regality, if that's a word, the regal nature, your clothes, your leaning, everything, step into the part. Okay, your neshama will be activated by that. Okay, so I'm saying all the physical instructions can get you there. The wine can get you there if you drink the wine, and the meaning of the wine can get you there. Okay, now of course we have matzah, we have hallel, there's just so much here, right? But the thing is this, to the degree we my final recommendation, there's so much, but my final recommendation in a kind of structural sense, to have that spiritual experience that will impart a spiritual experience. My final instruction is, and Shaul and I have discussed this a lot, that if you think of an actor, good actors, my Rebbe said, are never faking it. Okay, that what they're doing is they're generating authentic feelings in the moment. The circumstance may not be real. It may be a fake circumstance, but they're real in that moment. Now, we're not in fake circumstance because we're in front of Hashem. We have the idea of the spiritual time. There's a lot of reasons it's not fake, Well, we're not technically in Egypt, in Cairo right now. Okay, doesn't matter. You are being positioned to evoke real feelings. So my recommendation about the Haggadah is to treat it like a script. As you read and express what's going on, imagine you are yourself or before an audience, if you will, and expressing you're before the Malachim, okay, and Hashem, okay, but really you are call forth genuine feelings and genuine moments, okay. And then the last thing is one cannot discuss Seder or Pesach without discussing gratitude, right? So this whole thing, the whole thing of seeing yourself as a slave and leaving in the delay is to be able to say, thank you, Hashem. Thank you. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. I'm overwhelmed. And sing Hallel with intense enthusiasm imbued with gratitude. And please God, if you do any of this, will bring so much nachas to Hashem as the Malachim praise or Seder for having Kavanah Sever. And the final note is we also should do this with great humility. Okay. Hag kosher usa.
Shama shir shir chadya